I am Sadie Ellen Carr, 36 years old. I once believed that if I stayed quiet, thoughtful, and always ready, there would eventually be a place for me in that family. But then a notarized letter arrived, signed with my name almost perfectly forged. Just close enough for no one to question it, but just wrong enough for me to know. "You've always wanted independence," my mother said over the phone, as if that explained everything. And I understood some acts of forgetting aren't accidental. They're careful arrangements to make room for the absence where I used to be. I never liked group texts with confetti animations. The screen lit up with one at 9:42 p.m., Lindsay's name above a cheerful burst of digital sparkle. Just finalize the seating chart for the Christmas brunch. "You're near the tree, I think." The exclamation point sat there like a pin in my chest. I scrolled up. There were no earlier messages. No invitation. No. "Are you coming?" No mention of a date, a time, or even a place. Just this chart apparently drawn without me in mind, then backfilled as an afterthought. I stared at the message for a long moment before typing, "Wait, what brunch?" 3 dots, danced, paused, then returned. "Oh, I thought Mum told you. Maybe check with her. No apology. No surprise." I called. The ringtone buzzed once before connecting. "We assumed you were busy with work." "It's just a small thing anyway." The pause after assumed was longer than it needed to be. Her voice held that particular distance, like someone gently folding a napkin while deciding whether to say more. She didn't. I didn't press. I just opened my laptop, the trackpad worn smooth from years of staying late at the office. I clicked through Instagram with practiced care, like peeling off a bandage slowly. Lindsay had posted a photo 4 hours earlier, cinnamon rolls in a pan, candles already lit, name cards in cursive. Pre-party prep with the best crew. I looked at the place cards. One said Dad, another Tyler, plus Janine, and one in the corner folded carefully read, Mama. No card with my name, not even a placeholder. Their dog had a card. I closed the laptop. There's a drawer in my desk I haven't opened in a while. Inside is a keychain from a trip to the lake house we all used to share. My name etched in faded white letters, rubbed half smooth from time. I held it for a while before placing it on the table, face down. No one had yelled. No one had banned me. It wasn't that kind of exile. It was colder than that. Not the heat of rejection, just the absence where warmth used to be. I didn't call again. I didn't ask for a seat. I just stared at the spot on the screen where my name never appeared and knew I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been erased. I used to write everyone's name in silver gel pen. The cards were homemade, folded just right, little stars punched into the corners. One Thanksgiving, I spent 3 hours matching napkins to name tags. I even called Janine, Tyler's wife, to ask if she had any food allergies. She didn't answer. I still made a vegetarian side just in case. I don't remember anyone ever asking me to do those things. I just believed they mattered. When Lindsay was in college, she once texted 2 days before Mother's Day. "What do you think Mom wants this year?" I had already made the reservation. Already called the florist. Already picked a table by the window, because she always said the light made her feel less tired. That Sunday, they arrived 20 minutes late. Mom didn't notice the card I left under her plate. She picked at the frittata, looked up briefly and said, "Lindsay's skin looks amazing. Are you doing something new, honey?" The bill sat folded in my coat pocket the whole time. I thought if I kept showing up early, prepared quiet, they would see it. Not the effort, but the steadiness underneath it. The thing that kept the parts from falling apart. Once during a family brunch for Lindsay's promotion, Mom leaned across the table and said, "Isn't it funny? One of you always shines and one of you helps set the table." Her voice wasn't sharp. It was light, like she was observing weather. No one corrected her. I brought a lemon tart that day. Tyler never touched it. I took the tray home still wrapped in foil and left it on the counter until it curled in on itself. There was no scene, no shouting, no slammed doors, just a quiet reshuffling of roles where I somehow always landed in the space behind the camera holding my breath while others smiled. Even when they forgot to tell me about birthdays or scheduled dinners without including me, I stayed soft at the edges. I didn't want to be the one who made things difficult. Once, when I hesitated at a doorway during another brunch, Lindsay turned to me and whispered, "Just don't make it awkward." Okay, I didn't. I smiled. I asked who wanted more water. I went home much early. I didn't speak up because I thought silence was the price of belonging. And for a long time, I paid it. Willingly. I used to think they just forgot small things. Not on purpose, just the kind of forgetfulness that comes with busy people and overlapping schedules. But forgetfulness has a shape. And eventually I learned to recognize its edges. Lindsay's wedding invitation arrived in the mail printed on thick ivory cardstock with a pale green border. My name appeared in the bottom corner, tucked among second cousins and distant aunts. No note. No mention of bridesmaids. When I arrived, the usher smiled and pointed to a row near the back. "Guests of the bride's extended family." Tyler gave a toast that night. "Lindsay, you've always lit up the room. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for raising a daughter who makes us proud. And to Janine, for helping hold the family together." No one looked in my direction. I folded my napkin into a triangle and slid it under my plate. Later that year, Dad turned 60. Lindsay organized the party. I ordered the cake. A local baker custom lettering 3 tiers. Tyler brought a Bluetooth speaker. Lindsay wrote a Facebook post. "Couldn't have pulled this off without Tyler our rock. He really holds the family up." The photo beneath showed all 4 of them clinking glasses. I recognized the cake in the background, the knife I had tied with a gold ribbon. There was a dinner at my office once awards night. I'd led the campaign that brought in our biggest client. I invited Mom. She sat through the speeches, smiled politely, and turned to me as I was gathering my coat. "Lindsay's thinking of switching departments, something with more visibility. You know how she thrives when people notice." That's what she said. On the night, my name was printed on the plaque. At her house on the mantel, there's a silver frame with a black and white photo of the 4 of them on a pier in Maine. I remember the day. I was behind the camera, squinting into the sun, waiting for them to settle. They never noticed I wasn't in the shot. Years later, when I saw it still displayed, scented, dusted, deliberate, I stopped offering to take pictures. I don't think they meant to cut me out. That would have taken effort. More likely, I was just never factored in. And maybe that's worse, because it means I didn't slip through the cracks. I was never meant to be in the frame. I didn't know my name could be written by someone else and still look so familiar. The envelope came folded twice, the edges soft like it had been passed through too many hands. The notary stamp was intact. The signature at the bottom curved where mine would have leaned just enough to mimic my rhythm. But the D wasn't quite right. I always loop my D from the bottom. This one bent forward, too eager. Erin had texted the day before. "Did you sign off on the trust revision?" "Weird. It's missing your name. I hadn't even known there was one." Uncle Frank met me outside his office, fumbling with his keys. "It was your parents. Said you weren't interested in family matters anymore. That you'd drifted. He handed me a manila folder like it burned his fingers. The pages inside were clean. No strike-throughs, no question marks, just final lines and tidy signatures, mine included. I called. Just once. It's not like you needed it, my mother said. You've always been independent. She paused, maybe waiting for me to fill in the silence. Contributions come with expectations, Sadie. And you've made it clear you prefer distance. I didn't argue. I sat at the kitchen table and laid the documents flat. The formality of them mocked the softness of memory, the smell of my grandfather's aftershave, the sound of his boots on the porch. He once told me what's written can always be erased. You just need the right pressure. I traced the signature with my thumb. The ink didn't smudge. Not anymore. Tyler had once joked, "You're the kind of person who'd forget a birthday, but remember where the family deeds are stored." Lindsay chimed in, "Well, she's not exactly the heirloom type." No one corrected them. They didn't need to shout. They didn't need to cut me off. They had something quieter paperwork-typed dates, notarized seals, a method that required no confrontation. Just enough silence for me to disappear cleanly. I kept the document. I didn't tear it, didn't frame it, just placed it in the drawer beside the worn-out warranty cards and old utility bills, items no one really misses until they need proving. The drawer closed without a sound. I didn't speak. Not because I was afraid, because I finally understood the terms. They hadn't forgotten me. They had filed me away. I didn't pack everything. Just the things that no longer needed to explain themselves. The album with the peeling leather cover went into a box marked, "Not now." I didn't flip through it. I knew which photos were inside ones where I stood behind someone taller, half smiling, slightly blurred. I taped the lid shut, not tightly, just enough to say, "Not today." The stack of birthday cards sat on the edge of the table. Some still had glitter on them, faint fingerprints pressed into cheap paper. Most didn't have more than a name. Once Lindsay signed hers with, "Love you tons, mean it," then added a postscript. "Can't believe you're still living in that apartment." I opened a new email account. I didn't migrate the old messages. I deleted the group chat without saying anything. Not out of spite. More like turning off a light in a room I no longer used. Rachel picked up after the first ring. "I want to look at houses. Something small. Just mine." She didn't ask why. She offered to meet me Tuesday. I told her I'd go alone. The place sat on a quiet corner with a creaking gate and ivy curling near the windows. The owner was older, her voice soft like a sweater left out in the sun. "This house is for people who've outgrown being needed," she said. I nodded. I didn't need more than that. There were smudges on the kitchen tile, a cabinet hinge slightly crooked, a dent in the baseboard that looked like it had been made by a suitcase, or maybe someone leaving in a hurry. I ran my hand along the edge of the countertop. It wasn't new, but it held. No one helped me decide. No one asked where I was going. When I signed the deposit papers, I didn't take a photo. I didn't send an update. There was no post captioned "New Beginnings," no champagne, no welcome mat, just a receipt folded into a manila envelope and a check that left my account quietly. At home, I opened my notebook, the one with the frayed binding and the coffee ring from last winter. I turned to the last page and wrote, "Not leaving in anger, just done being the one who stays." Then I closed it. And I didn't tell anyone where it was. I didn't realize how loud the silence had been until it stopped needing explanation. The cabinet doors in the new place don't quite close all the way. I press them gently until the latch catches. The hinges squeak a little, but not enough to fix. I leave them as they are. Some things announce themselves quietly. The counters are worn in places soft with age. I found a chipped ceramic bowl in the cupboard and filled it with loose tea leaves just to give it something to hold. In the morning, I boiled water, poured it slowly, and listened to the steeping like it meant something. No one texted, no calendar reminders, no background noise, just the hum of a space that belonged only to me. I opened the front curtains halfway. The light came in sideways, slanting across unopened boxes. One had a label I didn't remember writing misc. Belonging. I didn't open it. I just slid it to the side and wiped the dust from the lid with my sleeve. The photo frame I brought sat on the shelf above the radiator, still empty. I leaned it back slightly and left it that way. I didn't feel rushed to fill it. Later, I walked 2 blocks to the hardware store, bought nails a level and a shelf kit that promised easy install. The woman at the counter looked familiar in the way kind strangers sometimes do. She rang up the total and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." I met Nora the next day. She was standing near her mailbox, adjusting a hanging planter. "You must be the one in the blue house." I nodded. "We've got a little book group. Sunday afternoons. We read Slow Talk Slower." "You're welcome to join," I agreed before I thought about it. That night, I found myself reorganizing my books by spine color. I don't know what made me smile, maybe the thought of sitting with people who don't know who I used to be. Or maybe just the idea that I get to choose which parts they learn first. In the afternoon, I hung the kitchen light fixture. Not perfectly level, but close enough. The old cord stretched slightly as I let it settle. Warm light spilled over the empty table beneath it. I stood there for a long time, watching how it landed on the grain of the wood. No plates, no centerpiece, no place cards, just space. And for the first time, I didn't need to explain the absence. The emptiness wasn't missing something. It was mine. I didn't post a single photo. Not the paper lanterns I hung myself, not the lemon bars that crumbled at the edges, not the sun falling just right on the wooden steps. Megan took one me on the porch, holding a glass surrounded by people who had chosen to be there. She tagged me. That was all it took. The next day, Carol called. "Your mom says she hasn't slept. People are asking why you didn't invite them. It's become uncomfortable." She waited for a response. I folded a dish towel and set it on the counter. She says the brunch was very public, as though joy needs to be sanctioned. The texts came in clusters. "Mom, we were your family before these people. You invited strangers and not us. Lindsay, you've humiliated Mom." Everyone saw that post. "Tyler, if you've been spreading things, now's the time to fix it. This is getting messy." No one asked if I was okay. No one asked why I made the guest list the way I did. The concern was never about presence, only about perception. The email from Dad had a subject line like a corporate memo, family, dinner, and clarification. The body was worse. "We'd like to host you Sunday evening. Your mother is struggling. It would help if you addressed the recent misunderstandings with extended family. Perhaps a statement to affirm we're all close and united." There was no mention of the last 6 years. No reference to absence or exclusion. Just an opportunity to restore symmetry. A call to smooth the image that had finally cracked in places they couldn't control. I reread the message once, then hovered over the flag icon and marked it as spam. It joined a folder of marketing pitches and automatic receipts. Years ago, Lindsay once whispered during a wedding rehearsal, "If You can just be easy this weekend. It'll help all of us. That's what this was. A grown-up version of the same script. Be easy. Be quiet. Be useful in the way they've defined. I didn't respond to any of them. I opened the window above the sink. The air was still. Nothing urgent moved. No one knocking. No cameras watching. They hadn't come back for me. They had come to reclaim the space where my silence used to sit. And I had already moved out. I stopped measuring my days by who remembered them. The mint on the windowsill has started leaning toward the light. I trim it gently once a week, never more. The first time I tried using it in tea, I boiled it too long. Now I let it steep, cold, no rush. It still does what it's meant to. I fixed the loose hinge under the sink, bought a wrench, watched 3 tutorials, stripped 1 screw before getting it right. No one saw me do it. No one needed to. My calendar fills differently now. Project deadlines, yes, but also Sunday book club, a haircut I won't cancel a night marked roast chicken attempt 2. The first one came out pale but edible. David stopped me in the hallway after the presentation. His hand rested on the back of a chair, not on my shoulder, not guiding me anywhere. You handled that account with precision. That's leadership. I nodded. I didn't fill the space with explanation. Heather sent flowers to my office. No card, just a post-it. You deserve a day to feel seen. Don't downplay it. The petals stayed open 4 days. I didn't tell her I kept the note. Jake knocked around 4. He brought oatmeal cookies warm with too much cinnamon. We sat on the porch. The light softened his edges and mine. You're very steady, he said, like someone who knows where they're going. I didn't correct him. I watched the sky shift behind his words, pale blue, turning slow. No one had texted, no missed calls. The phone screen stayed blank beside my knee, not blinking, not waiting. I didn't feel the urge to tap it. Lindsay once rolled her eyes across a dinner table and said, You're just always waiting for someone to say you're enough. It's exhausting. I didn't defend myself then. And I didn't argue with her now. But I see it differently. It wasn't exhaustion. It was hope stretched too thin. I tucked my legs under me, let the wood of the porch warm through the blanket. Jake reached for another cookie. The quiet between us wasn't empty. When he left, I didn't check my phone. I watered the mint. I set out 2 plates for no reason. I let the soft lamplight brush the edges of the counter. No message. No alert. But I didn't reach for anything missing. I only noticed how much space I now held without needing to be filled. I never liked the sound of fluorescent lights. They buzz like something unfinished. The post office was mostly empty. I stood in line behind a man mailing a box of books wrapped in twine. My envelope was plain white, sealed with the weight of paper I didn't want to keep, but couldn't discard. Inside 1 letter, 1 copy of the revised trust, 1 change of address form. The letter was only 5 sentences. I acknowledge what was taken. I do not wish to contest it. This is no longer my family's burden, or mine. I choose elsewhere. This is final. I placed it on the counter and paid for certified delivery. No return receipt. There was a woman behind me balancing a toddler on her hip. She tapped her foot as I waited for the stamp. The child looked up at me and blinked slowly, like he hadn't decided yet whether I was someone to remember. I left the receipt in my coat pocket. At City Hall, the forms asked questions that didn't require explanation. Reason for name change. I wrote personal clarity. New legal name, Sadie Ellen Carr. Carr had been my grandmother's name, stitched in green thread on pillowcases, penciled in the front of old hymnals, folded into birthday cards sealed with pressed violets. She once told me, "You don't need to be everything to be enough, just be exact." I signed in black ink. No ceremony. No witness, I knew. The clerk typed slowly, double-checking every field. "Most people keep something," she said. I smiled. That was the keeping. I stepped outside with the new name in my hands. The certificate didn't look like much. One corner curled from the wind, but it didn't need to impress. It only needed to end a sentence. Mom once looked across a crowded brunch table and said, "You're always making things harder than they are. Nobody else seems to struggle with being part of this family." That line stayed with me longer than it should have. I don't remember how I answered. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I folded my napkin. Maybe I swallowed the last bite too fast just to stay occupied, but I remember knowing then that something wasn't broken in me, it was misnamed. I didn't keep the old documents. I didn't burn them either. I just filed them under a name I no longer carry. The sunlight landed on my fingers as I gripped the envelope still warm. I didn't lift it. I didn't photograph it. I just stood there, holding proof that I no longer owed them anything, not even the courtesy of explaining why. I no longer wake expecting a voice to remind me who I should be. The kettle clicks off on its own. I pour slowly, letting the mint leaves unfold without stirring. The mug I chose is plain smooth at the rim, the kind with just enough weight to feel intentional. The scent moves through the kitchen, clean, green, quiet. The cabinets are the color I picked without asking anyone's opinion. Grey not for mood, but for stillness. There's no handwriting on the fridge, no list of errands, just one small magnet holding up a recipe I haven't tried yet. At the window I sit with one foot tucked under the other, a line of light slanting across the floor. The mug leaves a faint circle on the table, and I don't wipe it away. A cream envelope rests near the edge, unopened since Friday. The corner curls slightly. I already know what it says: a reunion, a chance to reconnect, a gentle reminder to bring family if I'd like. At the bottom, feel free to bring your family. I flip it over. Not in dismissal, just to let the silence hold its place. The planner on the counter is open to Sunday. In the margin I've written in pencil, "Bring yourself, no underline, just enough to remember." My phone vibrates once. "Can I stop by with muffins?" I reply, "Yes, but only if they're warm." No emoji. No need. On the shelf above the door frame, there's a photo in a new frame. White oak, unvarnished. I took it last month. I'm standing on my porch, backlit, one hand on the door, not posing, not waiting. No one else is in it. No arms around me. No need for a caption. It's not about who took it. It's about who stood still long enough to notice the light. I once believed I needed to be claimed. Now I understand what is whole doesn't require proof. It only needs space to be seen, like morning sun across a kitchen table. Quiet and enough.